Okay, cheers. So I've been using the iPad mini or so since it came out maybe 5 or 6 months ago, however long it's been. And I truly think that this iPad is currently the best iPad out of their entire lineup. Obviously not for the conventional reasons you particularly see on the spec sheet, but more so just how versatile that this tablet is. Naturally, it doesn't have the best display, the best speakers, the best battery, the best, chipset, not even the best lineup of accessories for it. But honestly, of any tech item I use, this easily makes it into my top 5 hands down. For me at least, this is one of those pieces of tech where if it were lost, broken, or stolen, I would literally replace it within the same day. Now, of course, I never cared to go into benchmarks or specs or any of that stuff, and I'm not really trying to convince you to buy an iPad either, because most people probably don't really need this or could probably do better with, an iPad Air, an iPad Pro, or whatever it is. But for me at least, this tiny tablet has become something I legitimately rely on the daily. And that's why for me at least, this is the best tablet amongst any of them. Now, as for why this tablet is a little bit more special to me, and I've sort of talked about it in recent videos, and I sort of don't shut the hell up about it at this point, but I'm one of those weirdos that uses, a pseudo dumb phone. This is a tiny ass Android phone that has modern day conveniences and such. This device particularly at least is shitty and small enough that it doesn't particularly do well when it comes down to social media and all that fun stuff, but it does still have a lot of modern day utility, which are pretty much the only apps I have on this thing, which is again why I lean onto my iPad mini 7 that much more. For me at least, I really just sort of find real solace in sort of disconnecting from social media and the internet more. Because it just sort of keeps me in a better headspace, having, more time to actually sit with my thoughts instead of, interrupting it with social media and stuff, as pretentious as that sounds. Now, because of that phone, naturally, I end up leaning on my iPad so much more. And of course, when I do decide to give myself permission to, go on social media and all that stuff, I use either my computer or my iPad. I just don't find it as addicting, but it still allows me to have access to the things if I really do want it. And of course, naturally, since I am using a dumb phone or a shitty Android phone or whatever you want to call it, my iPad mini truly is something that I use to connect to my family through, FaceTime and iMessage. This is my FaceTime and iMessage since I'm not on an iPhone. So that's just one of the particular things that I really do appreciate when it comes down to, iPad OS. And, I do get all those other apps I might ever want, even if, iPad OS doesn't particularly have the best versions of those apps. They're still there if I need it. Likewise, I am going to touch on it a little bit more, but when it does come down to this iPad, it is what I use for the most part for any sort of rest and relaxation, which is something that I've really been trying to do more as of late. Honestly, I found myself in a bit of a trap in 2024, constantly working and, rushing to the next thing. And my goal to, have more time to myself to actually decompress has been at least helped a lot by this iPad mini. And I wasn't really thinking it would be on my 2025 bingo card, but I have become a reader for the first time in my entire life. And I never thought I'd be that person that literally reads every single day. And even if I'm not actually physically reading, if I'm stuck in traffic or going on a walk or even at the gym, I'll find myself listening to audiobooks now, which is pretty badass. For myself, at least, I've typically only really, ever been a gamer and stuff. A lot of my content on this channel is particularly, gaming and stuff. So I've never really been a reader, and my iPad has been the perfect device for that, which is absolutely awesome. And it's funny that I've become so much of a reader that I'm sad that I'm coming to the end of Red Rising, which is the book I'm reading now. And I haven't been sad for the end of a book since reading Harry Potter when that came out when I was a kid. And Red Rising was an incredible comment section recommendation. A lot of people said Red Rising when I originally spoke about my iPad mini 7, and man, were they ever right. And naturally, because of that, I'm going to ask you guys for another recommendation of a book that is just so flippin' good you can't put it down. And also, I do have a question because I am a new reader. This is a real question because it seems people who like the iPad mini 7, you might have clicked this video and you might also read. Do I read the next book in the series, or do I just hop to another 10 out of 10 book? Like, I want another solid ass read. So let me know what I should be doing. I'm genuinely curious. I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys for the suggestions. If you have anything else, let me know, please. But anyways, talking about the iPad mini 7 again, and so I don't ramble on about reading. When it comes down to the iPad mini 7, I can't not talk about the Apple Pencil Pro. Now, I wish this was included. It's not, and it is kind of expensive. But this, if any accessory, I would say is almost mandatory. It's got to be the Apple Pencil Pro. Now, obviously not for everybody, but if you enjoy note-taking or writing in any sense, way, or fashion, the Apple Pencil Pro really is a huge plus to this whole tiny little setup. For myself, at least, during my day job, I work as an accountant and I spend an absurd amount writing. Every call I take, every meeting I'm in, even just the normal day, I'm writing on my iPad pretty much every day, all day. And I've talked about it in the past. I even have, a fancy pencil set with paper and stuff. And I'd like to use that too. But honestly, when I'm at the office or just at my desk, sometimes it's really quick and easy to just use my iPad. And I really do a lot of writing on the daily. And I mentioned it before, all of my videos start by hand. I write a lot of my video ideas for YouTube out on my iPad mini before, fleshing it out on my computer and whatnot. But I also do a ton of personal writing. And, as corny as it is, my wife and I have sort of had this annual tradition now. On New Year's Eve, we, throughout the year, we write down little happy notes through the week. We put it on a tiny paper and we put it into a tiny ass jar. And then we open that up and read it on New Year's Eve. Now, if it wasn't for my iPad mini, in all truth, I probably wouldn't be writing those tiny notes because I would just forget, or I wouldn't do it, or I wouldn't have paper, or whatever it is. But my iPad mini, I write down all my little notes throughout the year, and then I transfer them to paper and put them in that tiny jar. So one of those cute little personal things that I really dig about the iPad mini, I wouldn't be writing otherwise. And the last time I spoke about my iPad mini 7, I talked about coloring, and I still love coloring on this thing. I just figured I'd mention it again, even though we are, 6 months down the road on the Mini 7. I just love throwing on one of my favorite vinyl records and coloring for 20, 30 minutes. It's just one of those calm ass things. You have a nice coffee or tea or whatever else, color with some music. That shit is dope. You guys might like it. But yeah, the Apple Pencil, why that's relevant is the fact that there's a great level of pressure sensitivity on here, alongside some barrel roll features. There's just so many tools that you can use with this Apple Pencil, and I really dig it. Honestly, I just grab a PDF off the internet. It's free. I'm typically coloring Goku or some shit. As you can tell by my shirt, I'm a big Dragon Ball fan. That's just one of the other things I love about the iPad mini 7 for coloring. Now, somewhat relevant to the Apple Pencil and of course the iPad mini, I do want to talk about today's video sponsor. And I swear, even if they weren't sponsoring this video, I would still be talking about them, and that's going to be Paperlike. If you haven't heard of Paperlike, it's pretty much in the name itself. It's a screen protector that does go on your iPad that makes your screen feel like paper. I've personally been using Paperlike since, 2019 or 2020 or something on my, iPad Air, my iPad Pros, my iPad Minis. All of them have always had Paperlike. And yeah, it gives you that excellent paper-like feeling whenever you're using your pencil on your iPad for, writing, coloring, drawing, whatever else it might be. As somebody who does a lot of writing during the daytime, I really don't like the unnatural feeling of writing on an iPad without Paperlike. It's just kind of too slippery, and I don't really like it without the screen protector, at least. So for myself, it just feels a heck of a lot more natural. Likewise with their nano dot technology, whenever you are writing, it does feel incredibly smooth, and it doesn't have like a severe gradiness to it. It just feels like paper. Likewise, whenever you're watching any sort of media or content, it still looks good. So I don't know how they did it, what wizardry it is, but I really do dig it on that front. Again, even if this wasn't sponsored, I would still be mentioning Paperlike in this section of the video. So if you do want to check out Paperlike, I will have a link down below in the video description. They're so sure that you will enjoy Paperlike. They will give you 100 days to use it. And if you don't like it, you do get your money back. So just something to be mindful of. But yeah, I really do dig it. I have a link down below, and thank you, Paperlike, for sponsoring today's video. Apart from Paperlike and my Apple Pencil, when it comes down to accessories, I always have some sort of folio, mainly because I just prefer, the protection on the screen and having some sort of case on it that's not too bulky. This is just the basic Apple one, which is good, has good build quality, and I have some fancy one coming in from Moft. I'll leave a photo here. It looks pretty sweet, so we'll see how that turns out. But even with some sort of folio, this thing's typically small, which is actually one of the things I want to talk about, and it's one of my favorite things, being that it's tiny. It's in the name. It's the iPad mini, and I really, really appreciate the size of this thing. Honestly, when it comes down to portability with this tablet, it's one of those pieces of tech that I want to and do take with me almost everywhere I go. And I'm going to get it, actually. I just found this at Costco yesterday. I will try and find a link. I don't know if it's available online, but I got it at Costco for like 12 bucks. I got this flippin' sling bag that fits my iPad mini perfectly, even with a folio. So whenever I'm out and about, again, as somebody who uses a dumb phone, I take my iPad with me almost everywhere I go. And this sling bag is literally perfect for it. It's not meant for the iPad, but it fits the iPad perfectly. Again, I'll try and find a link for it. I got this thing from Costco, but we'll see if I can find it. Again, because this thing is so tiny, I typically take it with me everywhere I go. It does fit in pockets depending on who you are. I can put it in my sweater pocket, back pocket, that new sling bag I have, but it's what I use to connect when I'm on the go. This is, a pseudo dumb phone, so I typically hotspot my iPad when I'm out and about, and it allows me to get, a couple minutes of social media if I do want it, or otherwise checking emails or whatever else. My only regret with this iPad is unfortunately not getting the cellular version. They do have that available. It's a little bit more expensive, but in hindsight, I do wish I got that option. But even still, this thing is an absolute pleasure to hold in terms of build quality, being that, it's an Apple product. It really is 10 out of 10 build quality. The thing is too, I still have my M4 iPad Pro, and I use this, still a good chunk of it. But between the two, I'm always gravitating towards my iPad mini. Now, this M4 Pro is an absolute beast of a tablet. It is absurd what this thing does. Yet still I find myself using my iPad mini a little bit more. I just like the fact that it's a tablet. It's not, a super computer replacement. It has a worse screen, worse battery, worse speakers, worse chipset, worse everything. But for me, it's still the iPad I gravitate towards, mainly because of its flippin' size. Despite everything that is right with the M4 iPad Pro, that's an absolute beast. And I will talk about it a little bit, but this thing is still a powerhouse. Even if you do compare it to something like the M4 iPad Pro, it is definitely no slouch. Now, naturally, if I'm talking about, the everyday things on this tablet, again, there's just a whole human aspect of this thing, as corny as that sounds. Apart from the coloring and the reading and stuff, I really do use this thing every single day to decompress. Sometimes, that's gonna probably be an audiobook while I'm laying in bed or whatever, or watching a show like Invincible, which is really flipping good. Thank you guys for that suggestion again. I think the next show I'm gonna watch is gonna be Arcane or Solo Leveling, because those I keep seeing popped up in my comment section, and y'all have been popping off with these book and show recommendations. So thank you. It's been giving me everything I need in my life right now. But seriously, I just want to say thank you all, for watching these videos and your suggestions. Those incredible shows and books I've been reading have been everything I've needed to sort of relax and decompress. So thank you, seriously. If you have any other suggestions, leave them below. I will leave a heart or a like and I'll reply. But yeah, apart from my great show and book streak, a couple things on here I want to talk about. It's just how I use it on the daily, some of the things I have on here. Of course, I mainly just keep it pretty simple on here. My main screen is just going to be a mix of widgets and just a few apps. I, of course, have my book widget that sort of reminds me to read every day. I don't set the goal high. It's only 10 minutes because I'm a bit of a new reader. Of course, I got my calendar, which reminds me to write that happy note every single Sunday, like I mentioned. And of course, anything else I might have. Of course, you have a weather widget. That's as basic as it is. And something that I just added to this recently, and I didn't have it before, is a widget for my Govee light, so that can turn my lights on my desk setup on and off. Simple, basic, easy, but I really do dig it. And then I do have this, random widget where I can swipe through, and it gives me some other things like music, photos, notes, and all that fun stuff. And apart from that, some of the basic apps I have is photos. That's self-explanatory. A YouTube folder where I can hop on YouTube and reply to all the beautiful messages and recommendations you guys keep giving me. And the last app I do have on here is something called Flip Clock. I love this flipping app. I think it was like $2. I just use it for Pomodoro timers, which is, you work for 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break. It's just an aesthetic way to get that. You could always just set timers, but I really dig this application. It's also good for timers. Otherwise, I just use it as a clock every day on my iPad. And it's also easy to forget about all the other stuff on here. The microphone's great. Like I mentioned, the speaker's great. And then there is the new center stage camera on here, which I really do enjoy. I primarily use this for FaceTiming. Again, since I don't really use my iPhone as much anymore, FaceTime and iMessage is incredible on here, so I really dig that for the center stage camera. Even when I'm working during the day, people say I have a fancy webcam whenever I'm on like a Teams call or something. Turns out it's just my iPad. So yeah, they did a good job with the front camera. And then of course the speakers I mentioned. I am an absolute degenerate when it comes down to my music addiction. I love music at all times, anytime. If I'm cooking, in the shower, just chilling, playing games, whatever it might be, I'm always listening to music, and the speakers get the job done. The speakers aren't really miraculous or whatever, but they get loud enough and I can't complain. I just like being able to listen to music wherever this thing comes with me, either way. Briefly, I do want to talk about gaming as well. I typically don't really game on my iPads. I've had, periods where I'll dabble with Diablo Immortal or something, but recently I got into Balatro, which is on Apple Arcade. And regrettably, I'm now addicted to that game. So if you value your time and you don't want to lose hours, don't play Balatro on here. But that's sort of bridged into some other games. Again, it helps me relax, catch a couple minutes every now and then, or a couple hours if it's Balatro. But I've been enjoying San Andreas, good old classic if you grew up playing San Andreas. Otherwise, I got this game called Hill Climb, which is something that I played back in like 2011 or some shit. Stupid fun. It's a dumbass game, but I really do like it. But yeah, if I do want to sneak a couple minutes in, my iPad Mini 7 performs incredibly well when it comes to those games. But yeah, just so I don't ramble on too long, this video is already long enough on what could be a love letter to the iPad mini 7. I just want to say this tablet is absolutely crazy in terms of destroying my expectations as to what a tablet could be. I will say, specific to the iPad mini 7, Apple Intelligence, when it first came out, I thought it was cool. I actually used it quite a bit when it first launched on the iPadOS beta. I want to eat an entire turkey by myself. Give me a recipe. But as time went on, I sort of just realized I don't particularly care anymore. I guess it doesn't really help my day-to-day all too much. If anything, I could just use ChatGPT. But Siri is slightly improved, it's okay. So if you are considering an iPad mini 7 or an iPad mini 6, you don't really care about Apple Intelligence, the iPad mini 6 is pretty much the same in almost every single way, barring, some performance increases on the iPad mini 7, Apple Intelligence, and the center stage camera. One of the bonuses of the A17 Pro, I think, is the chip they have in the iPad mini 7, is that it's quite a bit more powerful when it comes down to things like Final Cut Pro. Apple didn't even, market this to be a Final Cut Pro machine, but it actually works on here. And I still personally love to edit my vertical content on iPad because the barrier to entry is so low, and I just really dig it on the iPad, and it does really, really well. Again, this thing isn't trying to be anything more than just a tablet. It's not a computer replacement or anything. It's far from cumbersome, and I really do love this iPad. It's the perfect mix for me. Now, I could be, some weird demographic where this iPad just ticks literally almost every single box of my day-to-day, which is why I gravitated so much more. Or maybe it's because I just prefer smaller tech. I love my, iPhone 13 mini, my iPad mini 7, my MacBook Air, all the smaller tech, I just really dig them. And this sort of obviously goes into that category. Either way, this thing is an absolute 10 out of 10 in terms of a piece of tech I really dig. And it just works incredibly well. And again, yeah, sorry if I sound like a bit of a Apple fanboy, but I just love this tablet. So I figured I'd share my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think about the iPad mini 7. Again, I just want to say thank you to anybody who left a recommendation for a show or a book. I'm going to cry when I finish Red Rising because I don't know what to do with my life after that. Thank you.